Hi, how are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Yes, thank you for having me today.
That's okay. Welcome back, everybody. You just caught me introducing myself to Katha. So we're now into the second life lessons of engineering after a fantastic session with Amelia. I have got a bio for you, Kath, but I think your presentation is going to talk about a lot of this. So I'm just going to let you carry on. We'll have some questions at the end. We do have a hard stop at 2:35, but take it away.
No, thank you. Hi, everyone. I hope you're having a wonderful time today. And as I said before, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you today. Now, I'm not going to lie. It has been a weird and wonderful journey to get here. And looking at the speech today, I thought of every passionate and inspirational speaker which has ever spoken. I spent far too long procrastinating on YouTube with regards to what would make the perfect speech. And all that came from this was a lot more questions than answers, a need for a thesaurus to brush up on my English, as I realised that I needed a lot more practice than my GCSE English. But all in all, from today, I want to tell you a bit about me, my journey into engineering, and hope that it will either resonate with you or support you on your journey also. So let's get started, and let's go back to 2010 to a young girl who was just passing her GCSEs, who spent her life in yoga pants and sportswear before it was fashionable, thought running could be a career choice, and anything related to maths and physics was an absolute useless pastime. All of my spare time was spent on the athletics track with the local running club, and I was actually training to join the military. My A-levels that I chose were biology, psychology, and physical education, which were subjects which I was passionate about and would help me reach my ultimate goal. Then, in February of 2012, my life got taken down a slightly different path. As much as I was on a trajectory to make it big with the 400-meter hurdles, there's something you need to remember with that, and it's to jump the barrier. Well, after a long day of riveting revision, a long training session, I forgot that fundamental point. 2 knee surgeries, a free NHS nose job, lots of hydrotherapy and physiotherapy later, I was ready to sit my A-levels and keep working towards my goal. My future looked set. I started a degree in biomedical science. I passed my interviews to become a private in the military, and I was in a great relationship. But 9 months after the accident, I was sitting in a lecture relating to genetics, and I looked up and I realised that I couldn't hear a word my lecturer was saying. Actually, I hadn't even heard him enter the room. Confused, I did what most of us do in these situations. I rang my mum and I said at the phone when I realised that my mum had picked up and I couldn't hear her. So I went straight to the doctors. We did tests, MRIs, and lots of probing later. I walked out the hospital with 2 hearing aids. The army is now off the cards. I'm now technically classed as disabled. And all of a sudden, I'd lost all that passion and drive that I had. I lost my direction. I had no idea what I was going to do. Nothing seemed bright and nothing seemed to have a purpose. And depression had hit me with full force. Now, after far too long of sitting on my arse and not doing anything, my parents gave me an application for the Highways Agency, which is now Highways England, and told me to get a job as they hadn't spent their hard-earned cash on my education for me to sit around feeling sorry for myself. Several interviews and group exercises later, I started my career in the commercial team as a commercial assistant, and I saw a world which I never knew existed. I got involved with noise insulation claims, understanding the different types of tarmac, and understanding the complexities of the world of construction and the balance for conservation of the environment. I started to see a world that I could be a part of, that I could make a difference to, and be a part of something bigger than myself. So I decided to start a part-time degree in quantity surveying. What I didn't realise that there can be a dark side to construction. This misogynistic world, which I was told was eradicated, managed to rear its ugly head every once in a while, tried to knock me from my course, tried to knock me from work. And I spent a lot of time jumping from company to company, trying to find myself, trying to find where I fitted in this man's world, taking more knocks than I care to admit. I bounced from education to scaffolding, retail fit out and back to highways. And I tried to absorb as much knowledge as possible, pushing myself to extremes and trying to put as much knowledge into my brain as possible so that I could show this time I had what it took to make it as a part of this company. I truly wanted to believe that this time I'd learned enough in every part of the role that I'd find my place as a cog in the wheel and be a true valued member of the team. I travelled around the country. I worked 13, 14-hour days. I worked weekends. I worked holidays. I put a strain on my marriage, trying to prove to myself that this exhaustion and misery was worth it, that I needed to do this to prove that I was good at what I do. I spent months at a time trying to find mentors in people who didn't see the value in the pastime, with mantras such as, well, I had to go through that and much worse, so get on with it. Or stop being a girl, like you need to harden up to make it in this world. Making me question what I fundamentally believed in, getting me to question everything that I'd been taught growing up regarding showing emotions, embracing differences, and fundamental respect. But then I realised something. There's one common factor in this that I hadn't stopped to realise. Maybe it wasn't me that was the problem, but maybe it was their insecurities, that maybe I was just as good at them at their job. And if they can knock my confidence and make me question my passion, I'm no longer a threat. That just because they had to have a difficult time in making it into their position doesn't mean that it's okay, or it doesn't mean that that mentality can continue in today's society. Now, if I'm being honest, it took me a lot longer than I would like to admit to get to this conclusion, but battle hardened and ready to go. I started in the utilities industry with a new mindset. And you know what? It worked. The comments about my gender and my career flew off like water off a duck's back. The questions about my relationship status and how my husband feels about my earning potential stopped. And all of a sudden, I was seen as a member of a team, not a delicate flower or someone who didn't belong. I started to be able to call out those who were making the comments and stand up for myself and empower myself forward into this brighter, newer light, which I never thought was possible. My passion was back, and I was able to go back to where I was when I started my career as a commercial assistant all those years ago. That with knowing that what I was doing in the role would link into a bigger picture and support not only myself, but other women in the same position. I then stumbled to where I work today. I now build fibre network, connecting people around the country with faster broadband, and which, let's be honest, with COVID is needed more than ever. People are working from home, and we rely as parents and procrastinating students on Disney Plus and Netflix far too much. But with CityFibre, and able to be empowered in my role and to see myself in the cog in the machine and support my team in their role also. So what can I pass on to my younger self, my team, and all of you who have joined me today? Firstly, stay focused. You may feel like you can't see the right path, or any path for that matter, but that's okay. Trust the process, and it will be okay in the end. Then don't let things you can't do overshadow what you can. Always look for the positive. It's okay to make mistakes, as it isn't a mistake if we learn and grow from them. Trust that you will survive the new normal. It's a scary world that we live in, and we've all felt that, especially with COVID, but we'll work it out as long as we work together. Ask for help. There is nothing wrong with asking for help and reaching out to your family, peers, and network for support. The network around you will make you stronger, will help you reach new heights and see things from a new perspective. And finally, you are significant. Your feelings are valued, need to be listened to, and it's okay to walk away from a toxic environment for your own well-being. The right opportunity is just around the corner. Now, Leaving university can be a really stressful time. The link from the security of education to the real world, real life, and all those responsibilities is exciting, but also incredibly daunting. All of a sudden, it can feel like you're overwhelmed, underprepared, and sometimes questioning your decision for your degree choice, or the amount of time that you spent in the student union. So, as you're thinking about stepping out into this uncertain and somewhat scary world, look for things that will enable your success. Find companies which follow your same morals and values. Go through LinkedIn and connect with women and men who you see as supporting your progression, like the people who are speaking with you today and tomorrow. Reach out to your university and see what connections they have, and see if they can support you in connecting your employers and to mentors in your field. Have a look at MentorSet and the opportunities on the WES website and the recruitment board to get some inspiration and further connections. I would love to tell you that it's easy and it all falls on your lap, but unfortunately it doesn't. It takes time, but the passion that you show will open doors and enable you to transition successfully into your career. CityFibre, for example, is a top 50 employer for women and has furthered my progression with not only finding mentors, but me being able to mentor other people, knowledge sharing, and it's also given me a foundation to build my success from. So when choosing a company for you, think about what you can feed into the company, as well as what you can utilize from them. So my question, how does this all make a difference? Well, if I help at least one of you today, or inspire 5, I'll have achieved a personal goal of mine of igniting that passion for you to succeed. And how will that help in engineering in the future? If you can inspire or support 5 women in your career, and they do the same, the butterfly effect of this would be revolutionary. That could be the difference between 19% of engineers being women today to 25, all the way to 50% in our lifetime, making a much better balance for everyone. And surely that's the thing we need to strive for. Isn't that breaking the stigma around engineering and facing one of our greatest challenges? Our fight for equality as women in this world of construction and engineering. And all we need to do is keep our passion. Now, challenges we face daily. I'm now a mum to a little boy. I now have 2 beautiful nieces and 2 wonderful nephews. Juggling work, coming to the new norm post-COVID, childcare, and all the challenges at work. It's important to remember to look back and remember on what you've learned to help you through the next phase. We're always challenged. Whether it's a new contractor you're working for who causes challenges at work, or remembering today you have several meetings and you have to make sure that you're back to take a child to a swimming lesson. Remembering to look back and see how far you've come. Let that power you forward. Sometimes the smallest wins have the biggest impact. New life, a new generation is a new way of teaching and setting them up to succeed in the future. Showing that women are an ally, that maths and physics isn't just for nerds, and that women can be anything that they want to be, either dressed as princesses or knights. And I will teach my son that we are all equal, loved, and as long as we have passion, we can aspire to be anything we want to be. So remember, it's what you say is important. You will be remembered, and the journey to your destination will show you who you are. So thank you for listening and taking time out of your day to join me. And if you have any questions, I will be more than happy to answer any of them.
Thanks, Kathryn. And that was amazing. You've definitely inspired me, even though some people might say it's a bit late for me. So I'm 100% sure you've inspired some people in the audience and some questions coming in. Praise, actually. So I think people are really feeling your great energy. So encourage people to put questions in the chat. While we're waiting for those to come in, I wanted to pick you up on something that you said there around, picking looking for a job, but making sure you're interviewing your employer when you do that. And I think we spoke a little bit about that with Amelia, about reframing things. So it takes the pressure off you, thinking they're picking me. Actually, you're right. You're also picking them, and, they'll be pleased to sort of get your skills and capability. So, probably a lot of people on this call are going to start thinking about, how to start doing that, because I think there's a temptation just to look for any job. So what advice would you give people around trying to sound out who are the good employers who treat people well and who value difference?
Yeah, so I always find it really important when you're looking for an employer to have a look at their website and have a look at what they're really saying and listen to what the employers are saying and try to read through the lines. So you go onto their website, they'll have what their moral values are and start seeing if that aligns with what you want as a person and as an employee. There's also forums out there as well where you can have a look and people can actually rate their company. And they're also really useful as well, because don't get me wrong, there's a lot of people who leave a company and go, oh, it was the worst place ever. But there's also a lot of people who put on there, you know what, I'm really enjoying working here. Maybe it was my time to move on with progression, but ultimately it worked for me. And also I would say my biggest piece of advice when going into an interview is make sure you have a list of questions going to them. Then half the time not prepared for you to ask a question, but I actually quite like it when I'm employing a member of staff. If they've got 5 questions, well, what's your biggest achievement? Have the company supported you with progression? Things like that. You can, as much as it will knock people off, you're more likely to get a more honest answer from someone by doing that, because it's not one of the standard template of questions. Yeah, no, that's really good advice. And it is, often the person interviewing you have to remember they are just also an employee at the company. So, they'll be able to tell you what it's really like you say. And I suppose as well, I think you touched on this in your talk, looking for things like top 50 employers for women lists and things, seeing who's on there. That gives you a little bit of an idea as well, doesn't it? So great advice. We've got a question from Claire. She said, what was your greatest satisfaction standing up to a bully at work? I guess maybe tell us how you did that as well. I'm sure it was very satisfying, but maybe elaborate a little bit more around how you did that, because it's difficult to do that in a professional environment, right? Yeah, and I think the biggest thing about standing up to bullies and people at work is making sure that you keep that balance between professionalism and showing that it is an emotional topic. So I remember one time I was a little bit younger, I'd walked into the office and I'd bought this really nice pinafore, nice shirt, thought I was, I thought I looked really smart, really professional. And I walked in and someone turned around to me and was like, oh, it's a bit risque. Oh. I looked at myself and I was like, I'm covered, I think I look professional. And they're like, oh, well, how did your other half feel about you coming out dressed like that? Wow. And I was like, well, firstly, it's completely unprofessional that you're speaking to me about the way that I dress in work. I am not showing anything. I am not being unprofessional in any way. And quite frankly, it's offensive that you're discussing my workwear in front of other people. Yeah. And if you go in it in a professional way and you keep it calm and you shut it down straight away, again, they're expecting you to have that reaction and go, oh, she's just being emotional about it. Yeah. And it's not. And, it's okay to turn around and be like, that's not okay. Shut it down and walk away. And then again, there's forums and things where you can raise these things. They have HR departments for these. It's to sexual harassment, as much as people go, he mentioned a blouse. Absolutely not. And, you've got to stand up for what you believe in, and it will help you make sure that you have those defined boundaries, and it will help other people in the future. They came back later on, they're like, I'm really sorry that I put you in that position, I'm really sorry that I said that. And again, you just leave it at that. Thank you for your apology, I appreciate that you see that now. And then you just walk away.
Because sometimes people's intent is not bad, but they've maybe just blurted something out. So nip it in the bud. You've got support networks at work. Good advice there. We've got a question from Iwana, who says, sometimes it feels like it's my responsibility to change everything for future women in STEM in a hostile environment, even at the detriment of my health. What advice do you have for knowing your limits and making decisions around what you should choose that then makes you happy?
I think it's really important, like I said before, when looking at employing things, is it's okay to walk away from an environment which is toxic. And it is for all of us to make a better environment, for all of us to work together. There are allies out there and you need to ask them for help as well. So don't feel like the onus is just on you. If all of us combine together and drive this movement, we'll all be in a better place for all of us. Yeah. So I know sometimes it can feel really overwhelming, but there are people out there, and that's why I said, connect to people on LinkedIn, connect to people who you've got today. You'll be able to find people in your business as well. So I work internally in a diversity inclusion network, and we have a network in there, and a lot of it is about women in engineering, women in tech. But with those kind of networks, you're able to find other people who are like-minded as yourself, and all of a sudden you can build a team to move yourself forward. Yeah, but ultimately, if it's affecting your mental health, that's not okay.
Yeah, it's a bit of a red line, isn't it, that you don't want to cross?
Yeah.
I think that's really great, really great advice. And I think, what I would say is, looking at the work, the organisations such as STEM does, often what we do is we just amplify, what you guys are doing in living your normal lives, just by being role models. So not doing anything extra, but just by being brilliant professionals, we can then amplify those stories that then, make a difference to who gets inspired and who can come into engineering. So just living your normal life is useful. So you don't feel like you have to do extra stuff on top. Thank you, Kath, and thank you, Ioana. Question from Kate here. Do you think it's a more balanced and less misogynistic culture now?
I've definitely seen it. Yeah, I've definitely seen a change. And I think that's thanks to lots more people being vocal. I think a lot has changed over even just COVID. If we look at some things that have been in the media recently, you just need to look at, the horrible incident which happened with Sarah Everard earlier, the Black Lives Matter movement. Everyone is becoming more vocal about some really difficult topics, and it's making people realise and understand some of the difficulties that people are having in day to day and kind of in the bigger picture. So it is becoming easier. Don't get me wrong, it's still there. There is still an underlying, but again, if you find the right companies with the right culture, you find the right people, it will get easier. It's one thing that I can quite happily say is that since I've moved to CityFibre, I've never been in a position where I have had that misogynistic culture, and considering we're literally digging the streets with, contractors and things. Yeah. It could be an area where it could be quite rife.
Yeah.
So,
and
you said, as I said, it's really hard. Sorry.
It's hard, but I was just going to pick you up there. You said you work also in an inclusion and diversity group at work. What sort of things are they doing? Obviously, CityFibre is obviously a great place to work. What sort of things are you doing in that group that maybe others can look for when they either at their university where they are now, because I imagine similar things are going on, or look for when they go and join the workplace?
Yeah, so we have a diversity and inclusion network, and that's got 5 pillars underneath it. So we've got an LGBTQ network, we've got a gender network, which covers parenting, we've got disability and carers network. So we've got a cultural network, and all of them build together to try and change the way that CityFibre see diversity and inclusion, to try and make sure that everyone is included, every member of the team is valued. And there are things at the universities which cover that, and there are things in other areas of work and other companies which cover that as well. So it's really important, again, when you're asking companies about, when you're interviewing, ask them about if they've got anything like that. Again, have you got a diversity and inclusion network? Is that something I can be a part of? Because then you'll find, like you said, Ioana, earlier about, feeling like you're the only person doing it. You'll find other like-minded people to be able to drive that change.
Yeah, and you mentioned at the beginning you wear hearing aids.
Yes, both.
Yeah. Yeah, so obviously you need to there's a sort of intersectionality piece there. Do you find that there's equal attention on both the kind of disability aspect and also the gender aspect at work?
Yeah, I don't get me wrong, I've had issues with both previously, but again, where I am now and how I portray myself in the company and how I push myself, I haven't had an issue with either. But again, it's making people understand the disability and understanding my gender. But again, I don't see myself as having a disability, even though I wear the hearing aid.
And we're all individuals, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's great. I think we've got time for one more question before we have our very brutal electronic cutoff. So if you're answering that, I'm going to say thank you now, Kath, so that you can take up the rest of the time because we've got only 4 minutes left. Thank you for such a fantastic talk and a window into your life and the barriers that you've overcome. You've said you're happy for people to get in touch, so encourage people to do that because it is useful to network and especially when you know a bit of the backstory. So Faduma has got a question. What advice would you give to a first-year biomed engineering student regarding career opportunities and finding out about the career choices available? Wow, that's a chunky one. You've got 3 minutes, Kath Johnson.
3 minutes. Okay, so if I don't finish this, I am going to be in the CityFibre lounge after this to answer any questions if anyone needs anything.
Okay. Actually, can I just say there's a break after this. So when we get cut off, there is a break until 3:15. So carry on, Kath.
So the biggest thing is have a look at the subjects which you're finding interesting, because that will help you and steer you into understanding what you want to take from university and into your career. So, for example, I'm a quantity surveyor. I could have gone into pre-contract procurement, material supply, more legal construction law. So it's really important to understand what you want from your degree, what areas are you really passionate about that you want to drive forward. And then your universities will have career advisors who should be able to push you in hopefully, or steer you into companies which might be able to support you in your career drive. Also, there are some really good, as much as there's this student conference, there's other conferences and networking opportunities. For example, there's a big one at the NEC where lots of employers go and they do like a grad scheme, where lots of employers go and they try and show themselves off. So look for things like that. Really go and speak to employers. In the booths, have a look at, who's there, speak to them about what their schemes are. If you see a company that you think you might be able to fit in with, don't be afraid to go and speak to them directly and go, look, I don't know if you've got an opportunity for me, but I'm interested in this. I think this could be something which I want to be in with in your company. Can you help me and support me into what I would need to do to apply or be a part of your company?
Yeah, and people are looking for good engineers, especially good women engineers, because they don't want to have this narrow mindset within their company. So I think people will be willing to speak. That's great advice, Kath. Thank you so much. So you'll be in the CityFibre lounge after this. So please do go and see Kath there. And thank you very much, Kath. And we'll see you all back for the last session on engineering life lessons at 3:15. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Well done, Kath. That was brilliant. I think people really loved hearing your story.